Hey, I'm Nancy Cavey, National ERISA and Individual Disability Attorney. Welcome to Winning Isn't Easy. Before I get started, I've got to give you a legal disclaimer that this podcast is not legal advice. The Florida Bar Association says I've got to say this, so now I've said it, but I want to assure you that nothing will ever prevent me from giving you an easy to understand overview of the disability insurance world, the games that disability carriers play, and what you need to know to get the disability benefits you deserve. So off we go. Today, I'm going to be discussing mental illnesses and how they interact with the disability claims process. Disability insurance companies don't always make it easy for policyholders who have mental illness to get the disability benefits they deserve. And we're going to talk about why. Specifically, I'm going to talk about understanding mental illness and the mental nervous condition limitations, mental illness claims and getting the benefits you deserve, and an overview of the disability claims for depression. But before we get started, I want to take a break. And when we come back, I want to discuss with you a new mental health parity proposal that hopefully one of these days will become law. So let's take a break.
Have you been robbed of your peace of mind from your disability insurance carrier? You owe it to yourself to get a copy of Robbed of Your Peace of Mind, which provides you with everything you need to know about the long-term disability claim process. Request your free copy of the book at caveylaw.com today.
Welcome back to Winning Isn't Easy. Let's talk about understanding mental illness and mental nervous condition limitations and how disability carriers view these types of claims. Many claims are denied because the disability insurance company says there's no objective basis for the diagnosis, there's no objective basis for the restrictions and limitations, or there's no causal relationship between your mental illness and your restrictions and limitations, or your inability to do your own or any occupation. So those are the kind of basic reasons why claims get denied. But the definition of mental or nervous conditions in your policy is really key to how those three primary defenses are applied. Now, if you're lucky, there's no mental nervous limitation in your policy or plan. If you're disabled, then you're eligible for benefits for the life of the plan without consideration of the impact of mental illness. What is key is if you do have a policy or plan that has a limitation, we need to understand how the policy defines mental illness or nervous conditions, because we need to understand what's considered to be a mental illness, and we need to understand how that impacts how long you may be entitled to benefits. Now, many policies will limit the payment of benefits to just 24 months, and there is a new legislative proposal that we think is going to be introduced in Congress in the future, of course, depending on the politics, that will address the disparity in the treatment between someone who has a physical disability and a person who has a mental disability or a combination of them. Because we know that many disability carriers and policies treat these claims completely differently. And by law, by case law, they are allowed to do so. Let's start out with the proposition that there is no uniform definition or in a policy or plan for those terms, and many have been written very poorly. So let me give you an example of a gobbledygook definition of mental illness. And this is taken from a policy of one of our clients. And it says any psychological, behavioral, or emotional disorder, any disorder found in the current diagnostic standards manual of the American Psychiatric Association. Other policies will not necessarily refer back to the AMA guides, but or have this large any emotional disorder kind of language, but they will actually list conditions they've decided are mental and nervous conditions, or they've listed conditions they've decided are not mental nervous condition limitations. So we got to start out with, what is the definition of mental illness? Is it defined? Is it not defined? Or is it inclusive? Is it exclusive? Now, there's another factor that we need to consider after we've defined what the term mental illness or mental nervous condition means. And that is the limitation that can apply to a disability that's involving mental illness. And there are different flavors of this term. Now, there is what I call the plain vanilla mental nervous condition limitation that says if your disability is caused by a mental nervous condition as defined in the policy, benefits are limited to just 2 years. Then there is the more nuanced but broader Monty Python version of a mental nervous condition limitation. And it says, look, if your disability is caused by a mental condition or is contributed to in any way, regardless of how small, benefits are limited to just 2 years. So you may have undergone back surgery and you've become anxious or depressed, and your benefits may be limited to 24 months if your disability is contributed to by that depression caused by your back problems. Now that's crappy, but those are the kinds of fights that we can have about these ambiguities. Of course, I've reached all sorts of different decisions about what mental nervous policy language means. And so it's crucial that you understand what's in your policy, what federal circuit you're in, so you have a sense of how a court may apply a mental nervous condition limitation as you are filling out that application or potentially dealing with a denial or termination of benefits. So let's expand on this. What mental conditions have limited pay periods? Well, this is some of the laundry list of conditions that I see. And again, it's policy specific, but it could be something like anxiety disorders, including generalized anxiety disorder, various phobic disorders such as simple phobia, social phobia, and agoraphobia, panic disorders, obsessive compulsive disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder, depressive disorders, including major depression, dysthymic disorder, psychotic depression, postpartum depression, seasonal affective disorder, and bipolar disorder. Now, I will tell you, there are some policies that say bipolar disorder is not a mental nervous condition limitation, but is considered to be an organic physical condition. So again, we got to go back to the policy and parse the terms. Now that I've set for the stage here, the definition of mental nervous condition, the potential limits on the time period, let's talk about the games that carriers play. And what they'll try to do is to characterize your physical problem as a mental problem, as I've just said. The carrier may say, in the case of a person who has a back problem, we'll approve your disability claim because you're depressed because of your back problem, but we're not really considering that herniated disc. So it's crucial that you understand the games that carriers play and how they're going to manipulate the mental nervous limitation to their advantage. Understand that the carrier is going to do a file review before the 24-month limitation runs, and they're going to be looking in your medical records for comments about continuing mental health problems. And they'll say, particularly if we've got the caused or contributed Monty Python clause, that we've got you, your benefits are limited to just 2 years. So what you want to be doing is making sure that your physical disability is well developed in your medical records and that your doctors are properly commenting that you're not disabled as a result of any depression, for example, that has contributed to your disability. You can see that it takes teamwork to work around these types of mental nervous policy limitations. Got it? Let's take a break.